Okay, we're back on the record on the case of Ryan Jones, D20-002357 and 56, both felony cases of receiving and concealing stolen property, over 1,000, under 20, both 5-year felonies. For today is really the probable cause meeting, Mr. Jones, which is where the attorneys talk, discuss the case, discuss it with you, and then decide whether you need a preliminary examination. Mr. Tarango, where are we with this case at this point?
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, where we're at is that part of the information that we have to charge Mr. Jones involves Facebook pages. I mean, over 1,500 of those. There's also an extremely long interview with Mr. Jones and the sheriff's office, over 3 hours, I believe. So Mr. Vicari has asked, and I've agreed, if the court's okay with it, he needs more time to go over those Facebook pages as well as finish that interview so that he can make an informed decision when he's talking to his client or advise his client appropriately.
Would the time that you would need, Mr. Vicari, be beyond next week's prelim?
It would, Your Honor, because we've got to first get all these pages and the interview tape. And so my sense is that that will take some time to either get it digitally, I'm assuming, or however we'll get it from, from Mr. Tarango and the Kent County Sheriff's Department. So.
Okay. So really, in essence, you're asking for an adjournment to review and investigate the documentation that's going to be provided to you that's fairly voluminous in terms of the number of documents you've got to review.
That's correct, Your Honor.
So, Mr. Vicari, my clerk is going to send you 2 documents that are the 21-day waiver on both felony cases. That if we're going to put this out beyond next week, which I'm okay to reschedule, I want a 21-day waiver signed by your client and you, indicating that, you're in agreement and you requested this adjournment.
No problem, Your Honor. When I get them.
What's the time period that you're thinking to reschedule the prelim? Like, are you thinking 3 weeks out?
I would think so, Your Honor. And so,
and I could just tell her to check with the attorneys.
that would be good, Your Honor.
Okay. So, Mr. Jones, you're following what we're talking about, and you'll be talking in more depth with your attorney, Mr. Vicari. But right now, we're adjourning next week's preliminary exam that was set for October 7th. And we'll put it off a few weeks down the road, 3 weeks or whatever, and the clerk will contact the attorneys to make sure they're available for the rescheduled date of the prelim. In the meanwhile, we'll send you 2 copies of the waiver of the 21-day rule that I would like you to execute, Mr. Vicari, and get back to us today.
Okay, Your Honor. Will those be sent, I'm assuming, via email to me?
Will that be email? Yes, email.
Okay.
And it can be sent back by the same way. And Mr. Tarango, I think you signed it as well, so we'll probably get it to you. If you're signing on behalf of Mr. Jones, Mr. Vicari, just clarify with him that it's going to be okay.
Yes.
Obviously, we're granting what you're requesting. So, Mr. Jones, if you give Mr. Vicari authority to sign those 2 documents on your behalf, you don't have to get any of the paperwork yourself. It just goes directly to your attorney acting on your behalf. Do you understand that, Mr. Jones?
Yes, Your Honor.
And are you in agreement with that, allowing Mr. Vicari to sign those for you?
Yes, Your Honor.
Shouldn't be a problem then, Mr. Vicari. If you have any questions, you can contact the court.
Okay, Your Honor. Thank you.
And I'll try and make a copy of that interview CD late this afternoon. You should have it hopefully by tomorrow. If you want us to send it to you, let us know, but you can also send a runner to pick it up at our office. That's probably faster.
Yeah. Okay. Although Felix, our office really isn't open, and so it might be harder to get a runner over there. So I don't know. if you can have it dropped off, great. If not, maybe I could stop up and get it. So
Sure.
what
Right.
about the 1,500 pages? Will that be on there too?
I'll double check, but I'll.
Okay.
All right.
All right, great.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it. Mr. Jones, if any questions come up for you, you just talk to Mr. Vicari directly.
Okay, Your Honor, thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for hooking up today by Zoom. I really appreciate it.
And again, Your Honor, I apologize. I just thought I'd be meeting first with Mr. Tarango, so I apologize.
I understand that. Not a problem. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Is Mr. Cordes in? Is anybody else?
The jail, which would have Garrett, and then Nokia C2 US.
Bring in that one, so see if it's Blake Hooksma.
I believe for Mr. Cordes, he signed the form that they will be coming for the prelim in the file. On Felix's offer sheet,
Just meaning they're gonna come for the prelim,
correct with witnesses.
but nobody's here. Are you Mr. Hooksma?
No, ma'am.
What's your last name?
Marquez?
Okay, give me 1 second.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Cordes, it's Judge Sara Smolenski, just calling with a quick question on the Blake Hooksma case. I believe that you're just putting this over for the prelim. Today was the probable cause on the aggravated stalking. He has a number of other cases as well, separate from the felony. We'll just expect that everybody shows up for the prelim because I've not talked to anybody today for the 9 o'clock probable cause. And Amanda's not here, so I'm sure you talked to her and I didn't get the message, but I'll check with Mr. Tarango as well. Okay, thank you, bye. Mr. Tarango, that was on the Hooksma case, and it's an aggravated stalking with Jeff Cordes.
Yes, Your Honor.
And my clerk is indicating that she thought it was just going to be put over to the prelim for further discussion, and that nobody appeared today, even though Mr. Hooksma has other cases. He had a contempt hearing on an improper plate, no proof of insurance, operating motor vehicle, driving suspended. I'm just going to put all the files together and we can talk about them next week.
That's fine, Your Honor. And
Okay.
Mr. Cordes did send us an email telling us he was, that his client did want the prelim, so.
Did want it. Yeah, that'll be next week then. Okay. Sounds good. Thank you. Mr. Marquez, your case is set in just a few minutes, or no, it was at 9. Okay, let me get a hold of Don Pebley. Is that the attorney that you were talking to, Mr. Marquez?
Ma'am, I tried to get a hold of them, but I never got a call back.
Never did get to talk to him?
No, ma'am.
Okay. I'm gonna see if he's available.
Yes, ma'am. I was also wondering, I talked to a lawyer yesterday. I was wondering if I could
Hold
possibly
on
get
one
an.
second. Hold on one second, Mr. Marquez. Mr.
Yes, ma'am.
Pebley? Can you zoom in? We have Elijah Marquez on our Zoom. It was set for 9 o'clock? Yeah. Zoom in, will you please? Thanks. All right, go ahead. You talked to an attorney yesterday and what?
I was wondering if I could get an adjournment, until I can get, I get paid on Friday. I was wondering if I could get an adjournment
Like
until I
an
can
adjournment on this case?
or just an extension until I can get the retainer for a
Oh,
lawyer.
I see. Because I had down on some of my paperwork that the Kent County Public Defender's Office was representing you. But you're of the opinion that you're gonna hire an attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That attorney that I just called is the attorney that I was notified was appointed to your case when you had no attorney. Because on a felony, they don't let somebody go through without legal representation.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is him right here. Mr. Don Pebley, can you hear me okay?
I can, Your Honor.
Now, Elijah Marquez is with us on the Zoom. It's an OWI third, driving suspended misdemeanor. He was just telling me about the fact that he has talked to an attorney about retaining someone, and he's
Okay.
trying to get the monies together to retain them. I indicated that I had your office, the public defender's office, assigned to this case, and I might be wrong, I don't know, but that's what my paperwork shows.
No,
So
that's
what I thought
have.
might be helpful is, because Mr. Marquez was just now asking if we could adjourn this so that his attorney could get on board, of course. And I was explaining that he has to have an attorney. We can't do it without a lawyer. But I think he was hoping to select somebody on his own.
Right.
I'd like to put the two of you in a conference room real quickly, just so
Okay.
you can chat a second, and then we'll come back and figure out what's going on. Do you have witnesses available, Mr. Tarango?
Not today, Your Honor, because my understanding was we hadn't appointed an attorney for Mr. Marquez.
Oh,
So this was still basically just a PCC to let him know what the charges were.
well, did you know, Mr. Pebley, that you were assigned on this or not?
Yes, I've been assigned. and-
Okay, so let's have you guys just be in a room for a second, a chat room, you and Mr. Marquez, and then find out. But it sounds like technically, we're gonna have to adjourn this and
Right,
give Mr. Marquez time if he's gonna hire someone new, but there's gotta be a time limit to it, because you either hire someone or you don't, and they won't let
Right.
you go by yourself, and I can't release Mr. Pebley from representing you, Mr. Marquez, until I know for sure another attorney has filed an appearance and is in. Because once they're in, they can't get out until the judge says so. That sounds funny, but you know what I mean?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you guys will be put in a chat room for a second, and then I'll be back with you.
okay.
All right.
I'm not gonna join that chat room.
No, Mr. Tarango, just Mr. Pebley and Mr. Marquez.
Your Honor, just for clarification, this came up on the 23rd of September, and Mr. Marquez showed up late, extremely late, where you had already done a 10,000 cash bond, but because he appeared
Oh.
late, he pulled it, and that's when you appointed an attorney for Mr.
Oh, yeah,
I don't think he-
Pebley's office.
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
think he even knows what he's charged with. I mean, well, officially,
OWI third and driving suspended.
right.
Attorney McCarthy in the jail.
Okay. All right, sir, at the jail, what's your last name? Is it Mr. Garrett?
Yes, ma'am.
William Garrett?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Garrett. I'm Judge Sara Smolenski. Your file is D20-02404FY. It's a charge they call breaking and entering a building with the intent to commit a larceny. That Mr. Car Wash. You're represented by Attorney Justin McCarthy. He's on the Zoom with us now. And your case, Mr. Garrett, is called a probable cause conference right now for you and your attorney to continue discussing it. I don't know if you've ever met Mr. McCarthy. Go ahead, Mr. Tarango.
Your Honor, I have that he's represented by Mr. Pebley.
Can you repeat that again?
Sure, I have that he's represented by Mr. Pebley.
Oh, okay, and that could be. So, Mr. McCarthy, are you
Yes, Your Honor.
representing the sailor person,
Yes.
not Garrett?
No. Correct.
Okay, that's fine. Thanks for bringing that to my attention, Mr. Tarango. Mr. Garrett, Mr. Tarango is one of the prosecutors, so he's already talked to Attorney Don Pebley, who's your attorney. I don't know whether you've met Don Pebley yet, have you?
No, ma'am.
Not? So he's talking right now with another client in a separate chat room. And when he gets back and we finish that case, I'll have you be in a room with him for a minute to talk to him, okay? The probable cause conference that's set for today is kind of a meeting, a chance to meet and talk, for your attorney to talk to the prosecutor and discuss the underlying charge. This is a 10-year felony, breaking and entering a building with the intent to commit a larceny. Are you in custody on anything else?
Those charges I'm in now.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
I have like 4 or 5 different charges.
So four or five different charges besides this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So your attorney will talk to you about that too, and some might be out of other courts, not all out of our court. This is the one I have right now out of our court, Mr. Garrett. But give me a minute and I'll have that attorney come back here shortly, and then we can talk a little bit more. Mr. McCarthy, have you had any connection with Steve Saylor?
No, I haven't, Your Honor. We've had another case together, and he's in the Department of Corrections, which makes it pretty difficult to connect with.
Let me just identify that the file we're dealing with Stephen Saylor, Saylor, is D1904295FY. It goes all the way back to November of 2019, so almost a year ago. This was a charge with breaking and entering or entry without breaking with the intent to commit a larceny. This is a 5-year felony charge that Mr. Saylor was charged with at a place called MSR-ADS. I'm not sure exactly. It sounds like a commercial business up in Algoma Township, Algoma Avenue. According to Mr. Justin McCarthy, the attorney of record for Mr. Saylor, Mr. Saylor is currently being incarcerated in the Michigan Department of Correction on other matters. This was set for a preliminary exam today. All I want to do is I don't want to do a bench warrant for him because, of course, he's incarcerated at the other location. I'd like to find out whether we can have any Polycom contact or any Zoom contact with him at whatever prison he's in right now through MDOC.
Sure, I thought that was what we were going to do today, Your Honor, but apparently that didn't happen for.
Well, we can double check and see.
Because
They did want to set it for today.
this is the date set for the preliminary examination, and we couldn't do the PCC last time because of the connection. But I know once we did connect with him from the
We
department.
did send paperwork over to the MDOC
Yeah.
that we were attempting to do a Zoom hearing at 9:15,
Yes.
today's date. And it looks like it was sent to the MDOC website at michigan.gov regarding Mr. Saylor, and a video Zoom that was going to be 9/30/2020 at 9:15.
They have yet to log in.
The
obviously.
person at the Michigan Department of Corrections that responded said, "Video order received. I will get back to you as soon as I get confirmation from the facility." That was September 14. It's a person by the name of Laura Morgan. But I don't see anything in the file that gives us the verification that it was, confirmed, I guess I mean to say. But
Right.
everything up to that, with us talking to them, was our effort to set this up. So really, all I'm going to do, Mr. McCarthy, is try to get to the bottom of how do we make sure that we've got the Zoom connected so we can start the prelim. Mr. Tarango, on that Saylor case, did you have witnesses ready today?
No, Your Honor. I'm in the same position that Mr. McCarthy is. We weren't able to connect via Polycom or whatever because he's been at MDOC, so he doesn't even know of the charges.
Oh. How do you communicate with your clients when they're in the MDOC, Mr. McCarthy?
Well, this is my first client that I've had since COVID that's been in the MDOC. So we communicate typically by mail because it's a pretty tough factor to make a Polycom connection. Now as we're talking here, I'm looking up on the Otis MDOC website. He's at the Central Michigan Correctional Facility, which is in St. Louis. So I may have to go there and pay a visit, but I don't know would you like me to make a call there and see if
Yeah,
the
I would. And then I'm going to still ask my clerk here if she could follow up with that person she had the email with to see when and what's happening.
Do you want me to should we try to do this? If you want me to log off and then I can log back on, maybe we can
Yeah.
get him to log in today.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, then I'll do that then.
See what you can find out. I'm just here all morning.
Okay, thanks, Judge.
All right, thanks.
All right.
I did. How much time is left on that other one?
Less than a minute.
Less than a minute, Mr. Garrett. Just hang on. We'll be with you. And then, Mr. Tarango, on any of these settlements that are set from 10:30 to lunch, you can just let us know if any of them are pleased. Yeah. Mr. Pebley, you're back with us now after speaking with Mr. Marquez for a bit. We're just
Right.
waiting to have Mr. Marquez join us again,
Okay,
assuming he's going to come in a minute. And then what I'd like you to do is Mr. William Garrett is on our video from
Okay,
the
I see it.
jail. And he has not had a chance to meet you yet, but we'll put you in a room so you could talk to him for a second. Mr. Marquez, we're back on the video Zoom screen here, and you had a chance to talk to Mr. Pebley. I'll put this off and reschedule it. You talk to whoever you're going to talk to, whether you're going to hire somebody or not, ASAP.
Yes,
Because
ma'am.
this case is going to be set up for a prelim within a week's time, probably
Yes,
within
ma'am.
7 days. So you're going to have to get an answer whether you've hired somebody or not. Because like I told you before, I won't let Mr. Pebley off the case unless there's another attorney that you've hired to take his place.
Yes, ma'am.
And if you don't hire somebody, Mr. Pebley will be your attorney. He's highly qualified and handles these cases all the time, just so that you know.
Yes,
You'll
ma'am.
get a new date, and it probably will be mailed to you today. Is the 19 Mile Road still good?
No, ma'am.
What address do you use?
11551 Montcalm Road,
Yep, we have it.
Greenville, Michigan.
Okay, we have that Greenville address. We'll send the
ma'am.
message to the Montcalm Road. So just make sure that you know exactly, time is of the essence. You got to either hire someone or go with your defense attorney that you've talked with, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Don't miss zooming in with us next time.
Yes, ma'am.
When they get you the date in the mail, zoom in.
Yes, ma'am.
All right,
Thank
that's
you.
it, Mr. Marquez. Anything else, Mr. Pebley, that you need?
I need the lab report from Mr. Tarango.
All right, and he'll get that to you, right, Mr. Tarango?
On its way, Your Honor.
Perfect. All right, thank you for your courtesy, Mr. Marquez.
Thank you, ma'am.
Uh-huh. Okay, will you please put Mr. Garrett and Mr. Pebley in a chat room? We're going to put you in a chat room, Mr. Garrett, so you have a chance to meet your attorney, Don Pebley.
We've already met, Your Honor.
Oh, I thought you haven't. Okay, but you guys can talk for a minute.
Yep.
Thanks. All I was going to say, Felix, on those settlement cases is if you guys ever needed me to put any input in, you could always let me know. Otherwise, we'd just go with it.
All right, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. McCarthy. What'd you find out?
I spoke with Amanda in the warden's office, Your Honor, and coincidentally, Amanda. And it turns out that he had not gotten to the specific room, but he is on the schedule. And as soon as he gets into the room, they will log in.
Oh, okay. Well,
So
we'll
we
just
are-
sit tight on Sailor then. At least it'll give you some time to talk with them privately.
Yeah, that's really.
I mean, we're really
beneficial.
probably not going to be able to run the prelim today, but, or start it, but you could talk with him and then see with his other business and how long he's going to be in. He may
Yeah.
just want to waive this and get further,
I'm-
further information.
That's true. I'm recommending that he waives exam, Your Honor, just because.
Well, you can talk with them when they hook up. Let's just hang tight. We've got another one where Mr. Pebley is in conference with a client, so we're working on two at the same time, okay?
Okay. All right.
Thanks for making that call, Mr. 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 McCarthy.
That's okay.
You know
Judge.
who you are. That's the most important thing. Okay, good enough.
Your Honor, if I can put in a breakout room with Mr. McCarthy for just a minute, appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. Could you put the two attorneys in a breakout room?
The defendant is here now.
Hold on 1 second. We got a defendant coming in.
Oh, it's him. Mr. Salem,
Uh-huh.
you want him in? Or?
Yeah, just put the two, Mr. Saylor's coming in right now,
Oh, he is.
but I'll put you two in a room first and then I'll bring you right back. Just a few
Great.
minutes, Felix?
That'd be
Yeah, do
great,
that.
yeah.
Okay.
And then bring that guy in. If you please. Are you Mr. Saylor?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Stephen Saylor, thanks for being available. I know they were trying to help us over at Central Michigan Correctional Facility. That's where you're at now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, my name is Judge Sara Smolenski, and I've got your attorney that's here on your case, and he is speaking right now, Mr. McCarthy, to the prosecutor in a separate room, and then on
Okay.
your case, and then I'll bring them back shortly, and then we can get a chance for you to talk with your attorney, Mr. McCarthy. Okay?
Okay,
Thanks, Mr. Saylor.
thank you.
Uh-huh. Okay, Mr. Pebley, we'll just wait for Mr. Garrett 1 minute. We're doing a couple of different cases at the same time. So we
Okay.
have another client waiting for Mr. McCarthy, so just a second. Okay, if you'll allow me, Mr. McCarthy, to indicate that Mr. Saylor has now zoomed in from the Central Michigan Correctional Facility, so I would like to put you, Mr. McCarthy, in a room with Mr. Saylor, so you guys
Yes,
could
please.
talk for a few minutes, and then I'm going to deal with this other case that I'm dealing with as well, okay?
Great. Thank you, Judge.
All right, so Mr. Saylor, we're going to be moving you to a Zoom breakout room, and then it should
Okay.
automatically bring you back to me when
Okay.
we're ready to talk, okay?
All right, thank you.
It's Justin McCarthy as your attorney. All right, so Mr. Garrett and Mr. Pebley, you guys have had a chance to talk a little bit. And
Yes.
I wanted to get a feel for what you think is happening regarding the probable cause conference for today. Mr. Pebley?
We plan on waiving the probable cause conference for the preliminary exam
Sure.
for further negotiations in circuit court between this case, and we had a similar case yesterday in Walker, so
I
we
see.
will be working
Okay,
out the plea agreement at the status conference.
I see. So, Mr. Garrett, if you waive your preliminary exam, there's no testimony taken at all. And this case, the one I'm talking about with the Mr. Car Wash on Alpine Avenue, this case would move on to circuit court. It allows me to say not guilty on your behalf if you waive your circuit court arraignment. You technically don't go in front of the new judge at circuit court to hear what you're charged with. It allows us to skip that process, but allows me to enter a plea of not guilty for you. By waiving this preliminary exam, it keeps open the fact that you and your attorney, the prosecutor, are going to continue discussions and further negotiations with the other cases that you were talking about as well, and kind of talk about all of them at once. Do you understand that? There's two documents that Mr. Pebley's going to get. One's called the preliminary exam waiver, and one's called the circuit court arraignment waiver. If you give him authority to sign on your behalf, Mr. Garrett, just those two documents, the case moves on to circuit court, and it allows me to say not guilty on this charge for you. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you okay with that? Do you give Mr. Pebley authority to do that?
Yes, ma'am.
We just email the paperwork to him, and then he emails it back to us. So that's what we'll do, Mr. Pebley. The bond in the current case stays the same. You can address it at circuit court if there needs to be any changes or issues with that. Okay, Mr. Pebley?
Okay, Your Honor. Thank you.
Any other questions that you have, Mr. Pebley?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Garrett, can you think of any other questions?
Not at the moment.
So just when it comes to you, because sometimes the questions pop up later and you say, shoot, I wasn't able to remember that. Just keep a note of them so you can ask Mr. Pebley. You'll be in contact with him numerous times throughout this. And it's normal that questions are going to come up, especially when there's different cases out of different courts or different counties, okay? That's who you should be talking to then. Thanks for your courtesies. We're adjourned on the Garrett matter.
Thank you, Your
And then,
Honor.
of course, you'll send that on. Yeah.
Yep.
Your Honor, so my understanding is we're going to start doing the prelims in person starting next Monday.
Yes?
And then we're going to wait for any kind of trial at least towards the end of October.
Correct.
Okay.
And it would really be more like the jury trials, the end of October. I don't know if there's any spaces to fit a bench trial if we have any. A bench trial perhaps could be done before that if there's space, if there's opportunity. But the idea was not to call the jurors in until the end of October, like the 29th or 30th. And as far as the in-person prelims, we'd still be doing all the PCCs by Zoom, and assuming they waive, take care of the majority of them that way.
Right.
The ones that automatically demand to run, the intent is to do those prelims in person. And part of that request has come not just from the jail, but from the Chris Becker at the prosecutor's office as well. And part of the reason that it's being requested by the jail is because, like right now, well, we don't have a person in custody, but right this second talking, but earlier, the guy that's in custody at the Kent County Jail, we're putting them in breakout rooms, and it's spending more of their Zoom time at the jail because they've got to deal with all the district courts and the circuit court.
Right.
And meeting with the attorneys has been causing, some
Delays.
delay. But, if my thought is if we can waive a prelim with a 5-minute PCC meeting, it's worth it.
Yeah.
Totally worth it. And I intend to continue doing that, unless and until we're told we can't.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Hello again, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McCarthy. Sure appreciate your continued courtesy throughout this morning's cases. Mr. Steve Saylor, you're there as well. Thank you for, well, not that you have a lot of choice in the matter, but the people over at your MDOC correctional facility helped us connect, and that's always appreciated. So
Yes, it
tell
is.
me where we're at on this case, Mr. McCarthy.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Tarango's extended an offer for Mr. Saylor to plead as charged as a habitual second offender. In exchange, they'll dismiss, if upon successful plea and sentencing, they'll dismiss the original notice of habitual fourth that will be filed in the circuit court. Mr. Saylor intends to waive on that offer. He has another case pending as well that we just waived on, I think a month ago.
I see.
And our
Okay.
hope is to kind of get everything together and work this out.
Okay,
So he also has given me his permission for me to sign for him on all the
Yeah.
necessary forms. So just,
okay, that's good. Do you anticipate that with the other pending case, wherever that is, when you do reschedule, you can kind of do it all at once?
yes,
Okay,
Yeah.
and that would be in circuit court?
yes. His case will get assigned to that circuit judgment.
Same judge? Yep.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. So, Mr. Stephen Saylor, I'm just telling you that if you waive your exam today, this is the case they're talking about and Algoma Avenue at a strip mall where they're alleging some electronics and televisions were stolen. This is a case where if you waive your prelim, the case moves on to circuit court. Circuit court is the next higher court up from district court. You'd have a totally different judge. As Mr. McCarthy has explained, you have some other business at the circuit court already, so it's going to be the same judge that's assigned to you on those cases. By waiving the preliminary exam, there's no testimony taken in front of me, so there's no decision I make. The case automatically moves to circuit. And if you waive your circuit court arraignment, you don't formally have to be arraigned by the circuit judge you're assigned to. They just let me say not guilty for you on behalf of this charge. On behalf of you, we say not guilty as the case moves on to circuit. So when Mr. McCarthy says you give him authority to sign, those are really the two documents that he's going to be signing on your behalf. Waiver of the preliminary exam and also waiver of the circuit court arraignment. Any questions, Mr. Saylor?
No, ma'am.
Feel like you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I understand.
Okay. I appreciate the fact that you guys had an opportunity to Zoom in with us from the Central Michigan Correctional Facility, and that you could join us as well, Mr. McCarthy, so you could have a chance to talk to Mr. Saylor. I won't have anything to do with the case from here on. It moves on to circuit. So just stick to talking to your attorney, Mr. Saylor. I don't know how many family members you have or who you have in your life or who's thinking about you, but I can tell you for certain, you being locked up right now and going through the troubles that you have, you're not the only one hurting by that. The people in your life, the people that care about you, parents, siblings, spouses, kids, they're all impacted by it. So when you have time, easy for me to say I'm not the one locked up, but when you have time to think about it, work as best you can to get yourself stable so you never have to go back. That's the whole point. Are you with me?
Yes, I am,
Yeah.
very much so.
All right, well, good luck to you. I hope it can work out for you. Peace to you. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
McCarthy. We'll get those paperwork sent over to you by email. We
Thank
would
you, Your
really
Honor.
appreciate it if you'd send them back to us.
I totally understand, Judge. Yes, I have the two forms signed already and ready to sign
Okay.
back. Just need the
Perfect.
probable cause.
Anything else you can think of?
Yeah, actually, Judge, I have a question. Going forward, I know next week we're advised that preliminary examinations are going to be in person. Are we going to still do probable cause hearings by Zoom or?
Zoom. PCCs will be done by Zoom with the idea that hopefully we can get all of them resolved that way, just
Yeah.
like we just did.
Yeah.
Just like we just did, a verbal waiver of the prelim on Zoom. They expect to have in-person prelims for the ones that will run,
Okay.
testimony taken. And the idea is to not hold up time at the jail on Zoom when they've got to do all these other courts.
Sure.
And I told Mr. Tarango the request also came from the prosecutor's office and Mr. Becker, because some of the other courts are all opening up. So how
Yeah.
are we doing it?
Yeah.
And we're trying to move forward in a positive way, but obviously keeping health and safety, not
Right.
just of all the participants, but our entire staff as well.
Right.
So
right.
we've got the focus